I faked a bad romance to save my doom. Bound brother, what would you do if your beloved brother was hours away from blowing up a couple's anniversary, dying a brutal villain's death, and getting his body dumped in the ocean, all for a woman who never loved him? I did the only insane thing that could stop him. I showed up out of nowhere, pregnant by a tattooed biker punk, and destroyed his last chance at chasing his toxic, fatal obsession. No one knows the cruel truth I've lived with since birth. I'm trapped inside a cheesy romance novel, bound to a ruthless survival system with one non-negotiable mission: save my brother Mark. The novel's tragic, doomed second male lead. In every original timeline, Mark devotes his entire life to the heroine Cindy, burns through his fortune, abandons his family, ruins his reputation, and throws away his future just to win a crumb of her attention, and in the end, she discards him without a second thought. The male lead kills him mercilessly, and his body is tossed into the sea, forgotten forever, nothing but a stepping stone for the main couple's perfect fairy tale love story, for 18 long years. I've been his personal chaos disruptor, sabotaging every stupid, self-destructive move he made for Cindy. I tore apart every sappy love letter he poured his heart into writing. I threw tantrums and crashed every single date he worked up the courage to plan. I ruined every romantic gesture he prepared, doing whatever it took to yank his focus away from the woman destined to destroy him. The system rewarded every tiny victory, slowly lowering his villain threat level, and stopping him from spiraling into the murderous rage that sealed his fate in the original story. I didn't do this for the system, or for the stupid novel rules. I did it for him. Mark was never just a fictional villain to me, he was my entire world. Our mom died giving birth to me, leaving 2 helpless kids alone in the world. Mark was barely a child himself back then, yet he stepped up to be both my father and my mother. He sacrificed his childhood, his youth, and every selfish desire he had to raise me, spoil me, and shield me from every pain and hardship life threw our way. The thought of this kind, selfless brother dying a worthless, bloody death for a manipulative woman, who never cared about him, made my blood run cold. I swore I'd burn every plot line in this world before I let that tragedy happen. I truly believed my years of silly sabotages had tamed his obsession for good. I was devastatingly wrong. The day I got my college admission letter, the first taste of freedom I'd ever had, Mark called me into the living room. He sat tall and rigid in his armchair, his sharp features hardened with a cold, terrifying resolve I'd never seen on him before. After 18 years of putting up with my endless meddling in his love life, he looked at his little sister and spoke in a low, unshakable voice that sent chills down my spine. "You're grown now, I'll fulfill my duty and do what I must." Before I could even process his cryptic, ominous words, the system screamed in my head, a blaring red warning that made my skull throb with panic. Urgent warning, villain threat level 100. Mark intends to bomb Cindy and Liam's 10th anniversary party. Universe collapse imminent. Host erasure, guaranteed if plot proceeds. My blood turned to absolute ice. All my years of fighting, all my endless efforts to distract and save him, had failed. He was still ready to become a killer, a villain, a dead man, all to get petty revenge on the couple that stole the woman he loved. Pure, frantic panic clawed at my throat. I had less than 24 hours to drag my brother back from the brink of total destruction. Less than a day to stop him from dying a horrific death and erasing me from existence entirely. And in that split second of terror, I knew exactly what only trick could pull his full attention away from Cindy's fatal hold on him. I had to make him hate my chaotic love life more than he loved his doomed crush. The very next morning, I marched into our luxury mansion with the most problematic, rule-breaking fake boyfriend I could find. Jax was a bleached, blonde street punk covered in bold, edgy tattoos, the complete opposite of the wealthy, refined men in our elite circle. He leaned lazily against Mark's custom leather sofa, one tattooed arm slung casually over my shoulder, while I stood front and center, boba tea in one hand and a fake ultrasound report clutched tightly in the other, ready to execute my master plan. I stared straight at my shell, shocked brother, my tone bright, cheeky, and utterly unapologetic, laying my trap perfectly. "Look, my man's no loser at all. Once he upgrades his motorcycle, he's gonna help run our family business, hand over the company shares, Mark. We've got a family to support now." Mark's face twisted instantly with explosive rage and disbelief. The calm he'd held the day before shattered completely. The hidden explosives he'd tucked in his pocket clattered loudly onto the marble floor, forgotten in an instant. He lunged forward, fingers pinching tight on my ear, yanking me away from Jax like I'd been poisoned. His voice was dark, furious, and borderline feral. "My business can wait. Today, I'm dealing with you." "Ow, ow, ow," I yelped, bending over in exaggerated pain, frantically prying at his tight grip on my poor ear. I knew he wasn't truly hurting me. He'd never laid a harmful hand on me in my life. But I needed this victim act to trigger every overprotective big brother instinct he had. I scrambled back, glaring up at him with fake indignation, my voice high and hurt. "Mark, you literally just said, I'm all grown up. You can't keep bullying me like I'm a little kid. I paused, then softened my gaze completely, turning to stare lovingly up at Jax before dropping my head in over the top shyness, laying the drama on thick. Besides, the love of my life is standing right here. Don't I deserve a little dignity? Mark's face turned beet red in 2 seconds flat, his jaw clenched so tight, I could see the muscle ticking violently, his eyes blazing like he was about to burst into flames on the spot. He was utterly furious, completely unraveled by my outrageous stunt. You are a child, what do you know about love? He snapped his head toward the housekeeper, snatched a wooden broom out of her hands, and lifted it threateningly, fully prepared to spank me like a misbehaving toddler. The second the broom raised in the air, the system pinged in my head, shocked and amazed. Host, villain threat level dropped from 100 to 90, successful suppression. A smug sense of triumph washed over me. I knew it would work. I knew my brother better than anyone in this world. For 18 years, he'd lived and breathed solely for me. He'd sacrificed everything to raise his precious little princess. The thought of his innocent, sheltered sister being swept up by a rough, unrefined biker punk, of me building a life with someone he deemed unworthy, enraged him far more than any slight Cindy had ever dealt him. He could ignore his own broken heart over Cindy, he could endure his own pain silently, but he could never ever ignore me. I darted around the coffee table, putting distance between his broom and me, twisting my face into a tearful wounded victim expression, my voice trembling with fake heartbreak. You were willing to abandon me and this entire company just for Cindy, you'd throw everything away for her without a second thought, and I feel the exact same way about my baby. I'd betray the whole world for him. Who are you to say I don't understand love? Mark froze dead in his tracks, my words hit him square in the chest, cutting through his anger and leaving him stunned silent. I could see the conflict flickering clearly in his eyes, guilt, confusion, and the quiet, painful realization that I was right. Right then, his phone blared to life, shattering the tense silence of the living room. The speaker was loud enough for all of us to hear Cindy's cold, arrogant voice drifting through the line, sickly sweet and condescending all at once. I thought you were going to ruin my wedding anniversary with my husband. It seems you actually have some self-awareness for once, Mark. She sighed softly, feigning gentle kindness, her tone laced with hidden superiority. I know you've done a lot for me over the years, but you have your little sister to worry about too, that burden you carry. If I'd chosen you back then, your sister would have constantly fought me for your attention. I did you a favor by marrying Liam. My blood boiled listening to her dismiss me as a heavy burden, a nuisance ruining her perfect life, but I kept my face calm and neutral, knowing exactly how this toxic scene would play out next. Cindy's tone turned sharp and entitled, dropping her gentle pretense entirely. But I'll give you one more chance to serve me. My husband and I want alone time today. You can babysit our kids for us. Mark's face darkened instantly. The guilt from my words vanished completely, replaced by pure, seething rage. His hand tightened around his phone so hard the veins on the back of his hand bulged violently, his knuckles turning white with pressure. Yet he said nothing. He never dared to argue with Cindy. He'd always swallowed every insult, every demeaning demand, every cruel dismissal in silence. That was the sickening truth of his love for her. She only dared to treat him like a disposable servant because she knew his love had no limits, no boundaries, no self-respect left. The system's alarm blared deafeningly in my head, panic spiking through every word. Warning, villain threat level rapidly rising, 90 Fe 95, imminent homicidal intent toward male lead Liam. If actions are taken, universe will collapse, host will be fully erased. My heart raced uncontrollably. I couldn't let him spiral back into his murderous obsession. I shot Jax a quick, pointed look, a silent signal we'd agreed on beforehand. Jax nodded solemnly, his lazy smirk dropping into a fierce, protective glare. He marched forward in 2 long steps, reached out, and knocked the broom clean out of Mark's tightened grip. He stepped directly in front of me, shielding my body with his own, his gaze blazing with fiery defiance, as he stared down my older furious brother. My girl is the queen of the gothic underworld. When people bully her, I block it. When she has no money for food, I carry the burden for her. What right does an old man like you have to disrespect her? He spun back to face me instantly, his eyes burning with over-the-top dramatic passion, leaning down to meet my gaze. My dark queen, do you understand how much you mean to me? I let tears well up in my eyes on command, my expression soft and utterly moved. I threw myself straight into Jax's tattooed arms, my voice wobbly with fake sorrow. My brother doesn't love me anymore. Fine, I don't want him either. I lifted my head from his chest, my tone turning reckless and bold, pushing every single one of Mark's buttons. You said you wanted to do donuts on his grave with your motorcycle. I won't stop you anymore. Go ahead. Mark squeezed his eyes shut tight, his chest heaving violently. I could practically see his heart pounding under his shirt, every nerve frayed to its breaking point. He was torn between rage at Cindy's disrespect and terror at losing his little sister to a reckless biker. Cindy's voice cut through the tension again, sharp and demanding, completely oblivious to the war she'd ignited. "Mark, you begged to be part of my life before. I'm giving you a chance now, don't waste it. Can you be here to babysit in 10 minutes? Mark ground his teeth together so hard I heard a faint crunch, then slammed his phone down onto the sofa with a violent crash. "I'm about to have a stroke because of Penelope's nonsense, and you want me to babysit for you. I'm busy." He chugged 3 full glasses of ice water in a row, his hands still shaking, before his ragged breathing finally began to steady. After a long tense moment of silence, he turned his bloodshot eyes to me, his voice rough and defeated. "Are you really pregnant?" He spoke slowly, like every single word pained him. "Get rid of the baby, break up with this punk, and you can still be my sister. I'll forgive you." I didn't refuse him right away. I knew better than to be too stubborn. If I pushed too hard, he might give up on me entirely, turn right back to Cindy, and resume his murderous anniversary bombing plan. He was still the novel's devoted second male lead, his years-long love for Cindy deep and unshakable. I had to play this smart, keep him tangled up in my drama long enough to kill his villainous rage for good. I tilted my head, staring at him with genuine confusion, my tone soft and questioning. "Mark, why are you so against me and my baby?" He looked at me like I'd just asked the most idiotic question in the world, his expression full of bitter disappointment. "Because he can't give you a good life. If I'd known you'd end up with a deadbeat punk like him, I never would have spoiled you rotten. I should have thrown you into the slums to learn your lesson." The second the words left his mouth, I fired back sharply, turning his own cruel logic directly against him, unflinching and firm. "But Cindy never gave you a good life either." I raised my voice, listing every stupid, selfless sacrifice he'd wasted on a woman who never loved him back. "You spent $30 million at a single auction just to buy her the Heart of the Ocean necklace. You drained our entire company's cash flow just to make her smile. And what did she do? She put on that necklace and married Liam. She married your biggest rival right after you emptied your bank account for her." I pointed sharply out the window at the golden retriever roaming the lawn, the dog Cindy had gifted him years ago. "That dog Buster has bitten me dozens of times. I've begged you to get rid of it, but you refuse every single time, just because it's from Cindy. You keep a violent dog that hurts your own sister for a woman who abandoned you. Your reasons for judging my relationship make zero sense. You're just jealous that me and my baby are actual true lovers who get to stay together." Jack stared at me with pure adoration in his eyes, stars practically shining in his gaze. He dropped to one knee dramatically in the middle of our fancy living room and belted out the cheesiest love song I'd ever heard, his loud off-key singing mixing with Buster's constant barking outside. Mark pinched the bridge of his nose hard, his entire body slumping with pure defeat. He looked absolutely drained, completely broken down by my logic and our chaotic scene. "Butler, take Buster back to Cindy's mansion. I don't want him anymore." He lifted his head, his voice tired and frayed. "And kick this blonde punk out of my house." The system chimed brightly in my head, full of joy and immense relief. Villain threat level dropped to 75. Great job, host. Plot deviation successful. I'd made huge, critical progress. I knew exactly what I was doing, using the classic carrot and stick method to keep Mark's emotions fluctuating, to keep his mind firmly off Cindy and his deadly revenge plan. I sent Jax off with a sweet smile, playing the doting girlfriend perfectly. "You go home first, baby. I'll come find you tomorrow." I thought I'd finally earned a moment of rest after hours of non-stop chaos, but the second Jax walked out the door, the mansion security guard rushed into the living room, his face hesitant and nervous. "Sir, Miss Cindy is here. She says she needs to see you immediately." Mark shot straight up from the sofa, his eyes wide with disbelief and barely concealed excitement. After all the pain and humiliation she'd just put him through, he still perked up at the sound of her name. He still cared far too much. I saw his composure slipping fast, so I spoke up first, calm and deliberate. "Let Cindy in." I knew his mind was already flying straight to her, already forgetting every ounce of frustration he'd felt minutes before. It was better to keep her right under my nose, to watch her every move and stop her from reigniting Mark's suicidal obsession before it flared up again. Seconds later, Cindy burst into the living room, fake tears streaming down her face, her expression utterly heartbroken. She didn't even glance at me. She ran straight for Mark and threw herself into his chest, clinging to his shirt like a desperate wrong child. Mark's entire body went rigid for a split second, then instantly softened. All the anger, all the exhaustion, all the frustration melted away the second she touched him. "Mark," she sobbed loudly, her voice trembling with fake grief, "Liam bullied me. We were supposed to have our perfect anniversary dinner tonight, but he took a random business call, and left me alone at the restaurant. I'm so heartbroken. You're the only person I can turn to." I watched in cold disbelief, as Mark's eyes flooded with gentle, painful sympathy. His clenched hands relaxed completely, and he lifted a hand to stroke her hair softly, his voice low and protective. "Don't cry, I'll protect you. I'll make anyone who hurts you pay the price." The system exploded in my head, screaming at the top of its digital lungs. "Warning. Villain is formulating assassination plans against male lead Liam, threat level spiking 75 Faye 92, host act now or face erasure. I kept a bright calm smile on my face, reaching for the teapot to pour Cindy a warm cup of tea, my tone sweet and innocent. Cindy, you should just stay the night here, my brother's the best person to take care of you when you're upset. I knew exactly what she was doing. This was her endless, toxic cycle. Every tiny fight she had with Liam sent her running to Mark for comfort. Every time, Mark would fly into a rage, sabotage Liam's business, destroy countless lives and deals for her sake, and then once she made up with Liam, she'd turn around and blame Mark for ruining her perfect love story, call him crazy and obsessive, and discard him like worthless trash. True to form, Cindy's tearful expression vanished in an instant. She violently swatted the teacup right out of my hand, sending porcelain shards flying across the marble floor, her eyes sharp and hateful. Does it look like it's your turn to speak? She stared me down, her voice dripping with jealousy and arrogance. My husband is the heir to the city's largest conglomerate. I've seen plenty of little girls like you. You're just hoping my husband and I get divorced, so you can take my place, aren't you? Ugly unfiltered jealousy flashed across her perfect face. She raised her hand high, long acrylic nails, glinting under the chandelier light, aiming a brutal slap straight for my cheek. A feral child with no mother to raise her has no manners. I'll teach you a lesson for your brother. I squeezed my eyes shut instinctively, bracing for the sharp sting of her slap, but the pain never came. I opened my eyes to see Mark standing directly in front of me, his back rigid, a bright red handprint blooming vividly across his entire cheek. He'd taken the brutal slap for me, my breath caught in pure shock, after 18 years of watching him choose Cindy over me every single time. He'd finally stepped between us, he'd finally chosen to protect me instead of her. Mark's voice was quiet, firm, and unyielding, no longer soft and indulgent for Cindy. Cindy, I know you're upset right now, but my sister is still a child, show her some respect. Even after 18 years in this novel world, I was still stunned speechless by how warped and toxic his love had been for so long. I didn't waste a single second. I pulled out my phone immediately, and texted Jax to come back. Cindy exploded instantly, furious that Mark had dared to defend me over her. You're defending another woman against me, I'm leaving, enjoy losing me forever. She spun on her heel, and ran for the door. Panic flashed across Mark's face in an instant. Old habits died hard. He was ready to chase her, to beg for her forgiveness, to throw all his newfound protectiveness over me out the window for her. The system screamed again. Host, threat level 99. Mark plans to lock female lead in basement for forced love, universe collapse incoming. I lifted my phone to my ear instantly, turning on the whiniest, most annoying baby voice I could muster, loud enough for Mark to hear every single word. Baby, where are you? My brother's being mean and he's gonna run out to chase another woman. Come get me quick, I wanna get your name tattooed on my tummy. I wanna let everyone know you're my whole world, and our baby's whole world too. Mark's fleeing feet slammed to an immediate halt. Every trace of panic over Cindy vanished from his face, replaced by pure unadulterated rage. A loud, obnoxious motorcycle engine revved outside the courtyard seconds later. Jax rode his bike straight onto the manicured lawn, intentionally running directly over Mark's most prized patch of orchids, the flowers Cindy loved more than anything in the world. He skidded to a stop in front of the door, extending a tattooed hand toward me with a crooked, edgy smirk. Baby, you don't have to put up with that old man's nonsense anymore. I'm your strength now. Mark spun around, striding toward us with fury in every step, the veins on his forehead bulging violently. Tell him to get out of my property right now. I easily sidestepped his reaching hand, hopped lightly onto the back of Jax's motorcycle, and wrapped my arms tight around his waist, my voice loud and defiant. If you can't bear to let Cindy leave, then I can't bear to kick my baby out either. Go chase her if you want. I'm gonna go stay at my baby's castle rental. He lives there with a dozen biker brothers. I'll be super safe with them. The system erupted with joyful cheers in my head. Host Mark's brainwaves are completely blank, zero villainous intent remaining, threat level fully stabilized. Outside, Cindy had slowed down, walking slowly down the driveway. She kept glancing back over her shoulder every few steps, fully expecting Mark to come running after her, drop to his knees, and beg for her forgiveness like he always had. This was her usual manipulative routine, run away, and wait for him to grovel. But today was completely different. Mark wasn't looking at her. His entire focus was locked on me and Jax, his face turning a terrifying shade of purple with rage. Cindy's confidence crumbled instantly. She stopped walking entirely, shouting loudly to get his attention. Mark, I'm really leaving. I'm never speaking to you again. Mark waved a dismissive hand over his shoulder without a single glance in her direction, his voice cold and irritable. Hurry up and leave. Stop interrupting me while I deal with my sister's mess. That was the final straw for Cindy. She lost her mind completely, storming back toward me like a scorned wife confronting her husband's mistress. her eyes blazing with unrestrained fury. First you try to seduce my husband, now you're making Mark and this punk fight over you. Are you proud of yourself? I stared at her in utter disbelief at her backwards, irrational logic, shaking my head helplessly. Lady, Mark is my biological brother. Cindy's rage spiked higher, her voice shrill and unhinged. What did you just call me? Did you call me old? My husband told me I was his little baby just yesterday. She lunged forward instantly, grabbing the collar of my shirt, raising her long sharp nails to scratch my face open. Before she could hurt me, Jack shoved her hard in the chest, sending her stumbling backward and crashing onto the hard lawn grass. Cindy, Mark's pupils contracted sharply, his voice deadly quiet and dangerous. Security, throw this punk out immediately. Jax let out a dramatic loud roar, staring at Mark with deep, tragic disappointment. You're a man, you can endure injury, but you can never be weak. If you can't protect your own sister, leave her to me, I'll guard her with my life. He revved the motorcycle engine loudly, ready to speed away, his voice low and threatening. But remember this, keep your family in line. If she hurts my baby or breaks her wings in any way, I'll destroy your entire world. I threw my hands up in the air dramatically, staring at Jax with pure worship in my eyes, playing my role perfectly. Baby, you're so cool, way cooler than my brother. I glanced down at the faint red mark on my arm from where Cindy had grabbed me, pouting tearfully. I'm just a delicate little flower getting bullied and crushed, and my brother doesn't even care about me anymore. I'm relying on you for the rest of my life. Mark leaned back against the wall, closing his eyes and massaging his temples aggressively, looking completely defeated and worn out. Escort Miss Cindy out of the premises. Cindy suddenly let out a cold, sharp, mocking laugh, pushing herself up from the grass, her eyes full of malicious triumph. You favor your sister so heavily, Mark, but do you know she can't wait for you to die? She brushed off her clothes, a cruel smirk tugging at her lips. When you refused to babysit for me today, I knew you'd been brainwashed by her, so I had someone investigate your sister's private messages. Look at what I found. She threw a stack of printed chat logs onto the floor at Mark's feet. Mark bent down to pick them up. As he scanned the words line by line, his face turned darker and colder by the second, every ounce of his earlier softness vanishing completely. His hands tightened around the papers until they crinkled in his grip. He lifted his head to stare at me, his voice ice cold, no trace of warmth left. Did you say these things? I froze, my blood running cold as I read the printed messages clear as day on the paper. The chat log was between me and Jax, and the words were damning beyond belief. Me, as soon as the explosives on my brother detonate, you immediately contact the family lawyer to inherit the company. We're gonna turn his entire corporation into a motorcycle manufacturing plant. I was stunned speechless. I did send those words, but it was nothing more than our fake acting script. We'd been rehearsing our chaotic fake couple bit to mess with Mark, to distract him from his suicide mission. It was all a performance to save his life, but there was no way to explain it now. No way to make it sound innocent. Cindy crossed her arms over her chest, her smirk triumphant and unforgiving. Nothing to say, that means you admit it, right? She turned her full attention back to Mark, her tone cold and ultimatum, like, Mark, I'm giving you two choices, either you come back to my side right now, and keep being the loyal person I know you are, or you keep protecting this ungrateful, backstabbing sister of yours, and I will never speak to you for the rest of your life. My heart squeezed tight in my chest, fear exploding through every cell of my body. I knew Mark's love for Cindy better than anyone. It was the kind of obsessive, all-consuming love that could make him throw away family, loyalty, and everything he had, if he chose Cindy, if he went back to his old ways, if he resumed his plan to bomb the anniversary party. The universe would collapse, and I would be completely erased from existence. I stared at him, holding my breath, waiting for his final choice that would decide both our fates. Mark's clenched fists slowly relaxed at his sides. He lifted his head, his dark eyes locked firmly on mine, and parted his lips to speak. Cliffhanger, and now it's time for you to weigh in. Do you think Mark will choose his sister me, or go back to the manipulative Cindy, and doom us both? Drop your theory in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell, so you never miss an update. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.